Ladies and gentlemen, James Lane here, and the idiots that stormed the Capitol, both extremists on different sides of the coin, but aligned in the same stupid mission, whatever the hell it was they hoped to accomplish, really screwed it up for us. And this is regardless of whether or not they were infiltrated, whether or not they were part of the people on the right, people that had pre-planned this as is starting to come to light, all these different things. The problem is it's going to get blamed on all of us, on every single person on the right. You know, this is the problem I have, all right? This is the issue coming into the 54th episode of the American Reveille Podcast. Look at this. The director of national intelligence, Mr. Ratcliffe, he released a report. He showed that China did interfere with the 2020 election. They did screw with us and make this election go in the wrong direction. And even the CIA Donald Trump fought the Patriots to withhold this information. It's not good stuff. But if these idiots didn't resort to violence, we would have been able to at least make our case. We would have at least been able to been heard. And now we are in a big old mess. So I want to talk about this report. I want to talk about what DNI Ratcliffe had to say. I want to read that report to you. I want to talk to you guys about what's going on, where we may be going, some alt tech to look into, the newsletter, all kinds of stuff, the way we're keeping connected, when I think Parler's coming back, all of these different things. Look, it's Monday, January 18th, 2021. My mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. A very, very strange year to start, to cap off a strange year, 2020 to end. But we are rolling full steam ahead, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, how is everybody doing? James Lane here, recording this in the wee hours of the morning. Well, actually the night before, going into the wee hours of the morning when this will be released, January 18th. And I want to first say thank you guys for your patience. I know I've been quiet the last 2 days. I really hope you understand. First, I'm going to say this to everybody that signed up to the newsletter, everybody that signed up to Project Underground Railroad. If you are not getting a daily newsletter, I recommend you check the spam folder, check your junk mail, resubmit, re-email me at jameslane@americanreveille.com. A lot of these mailers are ending up in the spam box. We're trying to fix that as best we can, but unfortunately, we're going through Google, and a lot of other people have emails, from Gmail, different things like that. That's Google. They have a lot of spam filters looking for the conservative message at the moment, if you know what I mean. So please bear with us there. But folks, everybody else that is basically saying, hey, James, where'd you go? Hey, James, what's happening? We haven't heard from you for 2 days. I want to apologize and also say thank you again for your patience. Like I said, please understand. We've got 15, 16, 17, 18 people working with us now, even a couple more people beyond that helping. We had a big staff meeting this weekend, a big powwow, 2 hours where everybody got together, got to meet each other and really begin to collaborate even more. Instead of the smaller teams we were working with, we're now working as one large group, pushing for the rights of the right, ladies and gentlemen. We want to empower people. We want to enlighten people. And mainly, we want to entertain people. And we're going to talk about that as we go on tonight. The main theme of today's podcast is going to be what DNI Ratcliffe put out, because that's kind of the frustrating thing about all this, right? We don't want to be grouped with the violent people that broke into the Capitol. For all of those people that did that act And that act should be prosecuted. And it is. For once, it seems everybody's working. Now that the Democrats got their way, it seems the FBI have a job again. But, that's okay. We need to clean them up. I see Antifa getting arrested. I see BLM getting arrested. And I see far-right extremists getting arrested. There's good and bad in all. And you're going to find these fringe groups on all sides, including our side. It's unfortunate. But like I said in the intro, they really screwed something up for us, folks. They really did. They really, really screwed something up. And there's a lot of evidence showing that there was a plan for this. There was a lot of evidence showing there was infiltration. We can speculate that there were people that were hoping, and it was in the best interest of people on the left, that something like this happened, because it prevented a lot of this evidence from getting out, and it put us in a very bad position where here forward, everything negative, unfortunately, gets related to Trump. This is how history is going to be painted. And moving forward, this is the ideology that we are fighting with our ideology. Plain and simple. Two different ways of life, two different ways people want to live in this country, and that's okay. We don't have to resort to violence. We can outfox them. We can play mental chess. We can win hearts and minds. And in the end, folks, that's really, really what we're going to have to do. And so that's why when we had that big powwow this weekend and we talked about expansion, we talked about what we want to do, where we want to grow, we talked about the American Reveille movement, the American Reveille network. And what I'm getting at is we may just be the American Reveille Podcast right now. And you may just get some great articles from the likes of Desica or Thomas Marlowe or Kinsley or even Andrew Penn. We've got good writers. I even write some articles here and there. But I'm going to tell you, we have plans for something much bigger. We see what's happening here. We see that good people of all different right-wing dominations, I guess I'll say not dominations, denominations, would you maybe call it? There's all different types of people on the right? From staunch conservatives to libertarians, we all kind of share a space on the right. But we've been kicked out of our spaces, be it where we used to go shooting in some instances, or be it to where we used to go read books or go to the bowling alley, all of these different things. That's kind of a physical way to describe it. But what I'm getting at is we've lost a lot of community, right? We've lost a lot of community. So I want to create a company. That's what we're doing here with the American Reveille. We're creating a company from the grassroots. You were with me early on when it was just me talking to a few of you, and then you guys grew. Now we're looking at almost 15,000 listeners this month. A lot of viewers, though we're being censored by YouTube and stuff. We are going to make the American Reveille into an entire industry in itself, a company within a company within a company. We won't just be one podcast. We're going to eventually be multiple podcasts. We're going to eventually be dozens of writers and blogs, different forms of entertainment, the things you used to love, the things you want to be a part of, the things you want to watch and be entertained by, be it documentaries, be it movies, be it different types of shows like Barstool Sports, for instance. Barstool Sports from Dave Portnoy. He has all different bloggers. They do different things. They've got, for example, it's not all sports. They got that guy Donnie does. He goes to different places throughout Japan and Asia and does different funny things. Why can't we on the right have a space, a safe space? Why don't we? We should take some of those words from the left. Our safe space. Why is it that we have to be persecuted? Why is it that we have nowhere to go, no one to talk to? So the American Reveille is going to be growing. We need your help. We need your support. If you know any investors, please reach out to them. Please send our names and the company, everything that we do. If you love what we do, please send emails out to your favorite people that you watch out there, be it Dan Bongino, Dinesh D'Souza, even, you send our name to the CEO of UFC, whatever. Just put it out there. We need your help because we are censored to holy hell on social media. Trust me, we're doing this on our end too. We're going through the pathway that you have to take as a professional company, and we're growing rapidly, and we appreciate it. But please, 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 if you want to see the American Reveille spread across this nation, if you want to see this get big, if you relate and agree and you feel empowered, enlightened, entertained, and love what we do, please help us in this. We can't do it without you. We've done everything so far with you, and we aren't going to do the rest without you. So thank you so much for that. So I've been talking, I've been blabbing. We're going to take some breaks for this while we go through and talk about some more things. But I want to get started. I want to talk about Joe Biden. I want to talk about China. I want to talk about the 2020 election. I want to talk about this article from Gateway Pundit. So this is from Joe Hoft, all right? This is Gateway Pundit breaking. DNI Ratcliffe, all right? He released a report showing China interfered with the 2020 election and CIA management pressured analysts not to report it. Isn't that lovely, ladies and gentlemen? Everything we know to be true is true. They're painting with a very broad brush from the left. It's very dangerous what's happening. I hope things stay relatively calm, but we have to keep ourselves prepared. I swear, if I had a sponsor for like preserved food and stuff like that, wink to any sponsors out there listening, I would be advertising it, because now is the time to stock up a little bit, folks. I'm not saying bunker yourself in for the next 16 months, but it would be good to have a good 2 months worth of supplies. Let's read. China interfered with the 2020 election based on a report by Director of National Intelligence Ratcliffe. DNI Ratcliffe issued a report stating China interfered in the 2020 election while CIA management pressured lower-level analysts to discount this assessment. Isn't that lovely, guys? Isn't that lovely right there in the bureaucracy of the U.S. government? Our own system working against the American people because it doesn't want the people to have power. It's greedy for its own rule, reign, and control to stay in place. DNI John Ratcliffe assessed that China interfered in the 2020 federal elections, according to a letter transmitted to Congress. The letter, PDF, which we're going to read, ladies and gentlemen, Ratcliffe alleges that intelligence about China's election interference was suppressed by management at the CIA, which pressured analysts to withdraw their support for the view. Remember when all this stuff was going down from servers that we were hearing about in Germany, different things with the CIA, all of that? It seems that the CIA and all of these different agencies with the rhinos and the Bill Barrs of the world, it seems that they did unfortunately put enough pressure in the right places to force their agenda down everybody's throats. All right, folks. I know that everybody's hanging on to some hope, some Q stuff like that, but folks, you can't let that stuff really happen. If a national security emergency emerges that is right there, right in your face, it's going to be handled. And honestly, if something does happen, then we'll talk about it then. But at this point, when people are packing up their offices and leaving, when the lovely Miss McEnany is packing up her office and going, Trump and his surrounding patriots, they all set us up. All right. They set us up for success coming up. They did the best they could to do so. All right. I understand how some people feel who aren't fully informed with the facts of what happened on the 6th, but you cannot paint with a broad brush. That was not Donald Trump. All right. Don't call facts. Don't call reality. Don't call things from a hypocritical placeholder. The left are the biggest hypocrites. They caused so much damage. They caused all of this horrible stuff across the country. But to them, and remember what I've said before, we live in two different worlds with two different sets of definitions. To them, it's justified because they have a different definition of how to use violence. All right. I'm not justifying any violence that happens anywhere, but to them, it's a one-sided thing because all white people are systemically racist. So whatever white people do is coming from a place of pure evil. That's what CRT teaches these people. You have to understand that we are two different ideologies now. So the reason you can't communicate with each other is because there's a real language barrier, because their definitions to the same words are different than our definitions, ladies and gentlemen. The internal war was fought, all right? The war of wills, the chess game was fought, and we walked into a trap between extremists on the right and extremists on the left. They screwed up our chances at anything even close to something fair. So now it's hearts and minds, folks. Now it is a battle of wills. Now it is doing different things, expanding this organization, reaching the hearts and minds of individuals across all 50 states and helping them to reach other patriots, wake people up, and put pressure on our education system, put pressure on our legislatures, make real change happen, overwhelm the culture and the social war with our culture, our social presence. They are going to call everything we do supremacy. They call black people white supremacists. That's what you have to understand. Well, being called a white supremacist has nothing to do with being white. So remember, these facts are going to come out. And if we spend all the time going, oh, the facts are here, nobody's doing anything, they're going to just keep expanding their power. All right, folks, we have to see this from the bigger picture view. Citing a report by the intelligence community analytic ombudsman, Barry Zulauf. Now, a lot of people ask me what ombudsman means. I was in the Navy. We use the word ombudsman all the time. It's a term that basically just means the principal investigator in something, or like the assistant that's uncovering something, that's reporting something. So when they say citing a report by the intelligence community analytic ombudsman, so it's somebody that investigates the analytics. Barry Zulauf, the director of national intelligence, said some analysts were reluctant to describe China's actions as election interference because they disagreed with the policies of President Donald Trump. So even though they uncovered Chinese interference, they purposely sabotaged the report because they hate the president, the patriots, and a free United States of America. The Washington Examiner published Ratcliffe's letter and the Ombudsman report on January 17th, 10 days after publishing an original report on the documents. The ODNI did not respond. That was the report, by the way, that Trump got. The ODNI did not respond to requests from the Epoch Times to authenticate the documents, and that's probably why he wasn't able to enact any type of insurrection act or anything like that, because when he got this report, it probably wasn't conclusive because the analysts didn't put down the true results. When you hear this, when you hear what it says and what they're talking about, it's saying that many were scared or many didn't want to. They didn't like Trump, so they purposely downplayed certain people. They didn't realize they were screwing over their country. All they wanted to do was screw over the president. That's the problem. People hate him so much. They hate his personality so much that they don't even realize they're screwing over their own country. And to me, that's the biggest Chinese interference of all. And that can be found back, planted in seeds from decades and decades ago. Quote, based on all available sources of intelligence, with definitions consistently applied and reached independent of political considerations or undue pressure that the People's Republic of China sought to influence the 2020 U.S. federal elections. Ratcliffe wrote, neither the Ombudsman report nor the letter from Ratcliffe include details on China's meddling. And that's the problem. That's what he couldn't get put out there. He knows. He runs all the intelligence. He knows all of it. But he couldn't get it on a piece of paper because people were either afraid or just didn't like the president. And that's how history is written, ladies and gentlemen. Sad but true. These leftists are going to try to put in the history books that Trump was the worst president ever. You even have Arnold Schwarzenegger that they're talking about the worst president ever. Arnold Schwarzenegger. whose own parents were involved with the Nazis, comparing what happened at the Capitol to Kristallnacht. I think 30,000 people or so were imprisoned during that. They broke the glass of all the Jewish businesses. What about all the glass broken from Black Lives Matter and Antifa? And here's why. Again, remember, this is why this doesn't come up, because two different ideologies, two different sets of definition. It's Leninism. Play with the words, ladies and gentlemen. Play with the words and affect the culture, affect the social class structure. We have two different realities now. That was implanted here. You know it. I know it. That's why we can't talk to each other, because BLM and Antifa burning businesses in cities and murdering people for 7 months, 8 months, a year, because they've attached themselves to a cause of social justice and pretending to help the minority groups. That is them fighting the man, fighting the oppression, and fighting for freedom. Whereas what we're doing, just fighting for traditional constitutionalism, traditional rights, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, my individual freedom ending where your individual freedom begins, that to them is a racist, white supremacist construct. Remember, two different worlds, two different ideologies. You can't have the conversation with them because they don't speak your same language. So we don't go anywhere. We don't win this. We don't prevail. We disappear if we don't affect hearts and minds. So American Reveille, here we go. We are blasting off. If you know people that want to invest, get a hold of me, James Lane at AmericanReveille.com, James Lane at AmericanReveille.com. Listen, I'm no spring potato, ladies and gentlemen. If you do know a serious investor who wants to be involved in the American Reveille movement and building of a entertainment network, all right, you let them get a hold of me. I have an MBA in organizational leadership. I am a business management PhD student, so we are not designing this from a basis of no knowledge. Plus, I have many people working with me that have extensive professional backgrounds. So that is something that they would want to hear. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to talk about this stuff from time to time. We are building this from the grassroots, and you guys are a part of that with social media back and forth and wonky and things sometimes working, things not working, the left attacking us being censored on all ends from big tech, social media, from the world out there that wants to oppress 80 million passionate right-wing Trump supporters. Folks, we need your help. Plain and simple. We need your help. All right, folks. So please, 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 without further ado, what I want to do, see that rhymed, further ado, what I want to do. Anyway, we want to go into this letter from Ratcliffe. All right, we're going to start here at the top where it says unclassified. We're going to read through it and get this information out to you. All right. Director of National Intelligence, Washington, D.C., subject, views on intelligence community election security analysis, intelligence community assessment, foreign threats to the 2020 U.S. elections. From my unique vantage point as the individual who consumes all of the U.S. government's most sensitive intelligence on the People's Republic of China, I do not believe the majority view expressed by the intelligence community analysts fully and accurately reflects the scope of the Chinese government's efforts to influence the 2020 U.S. federal election. So, folks, that gives it away right there. That tells you what happened when this report came out, the one that we were waiting for, the one that came from Executive Order 13848, the report from the DNI. It comes from these analysts that work with the Director of National Intelligence. And they, in his belief, were too cowardly or hated Trump too much to put accurate information. So when that report came out, it came out saying that China didn't interfere and Trump had no powers to act. Though Ratcliffe, the director of the whole thing, disagrees with them, which means they were actually insubordinate. Do you know how deep the swamp goes, ladies and gentlemen? because that is a perfect example of how deep the swamp goes. I'm not saying this to scare you folks. I'm saying this so that you understand exactly how far this rabbit hole goes. Let's keep reading. The IC's Analytic Ombudsman issued a report, which I'll reference several times below, that includes concerning revelations about the politicization. I think I said that right. Politicization. Yeah, I did. Politicization of China election interference reporting and of the undue pressure being brought to bear on analysts who offered an alternative view based on intelligence. See what I'm saying? He's saying that there was pressure put on analysts who agreed with Mr. Ratcliffe. They were pressured to lie and say that there was no interference. The Ombudsman report, which is being transmitted to Congress concurrently with this Intelligence Community Assessment, ICA, also delves into a wider range of election security intelligence issues that I will not focus on here. However, the specific issues outlined below with regard to China reporting are illustrative of broader concerns. It is important for all IC leaders to foster a culture within the community that encourages dissenting views that are supported by the intelligence. Therefore, I believe it is incumbent upon me in my role as Director of National Intelligence to lead by example and offer my personal analytic assessment alongside the majority and minority views. This letter was prepared in consultation with the Ombudsman to ensure that I am accurately articulating his findings and presenting them in the proper context. So the analysts and Mr. Ratcliffe both have access to the same data. All right. They're not seeing different data. It's how they're interpreting, right, and reporting that data and how it's getting put into a report. And because Mr. Ratcliffe does not believe that the Ombudsman did their job properly, the analysts, did their job properly. He's giving his own assessment based upon the same exact data that they are looking at. The majority view expressed in this ICA with regard to China's actions to influence the election falls short of the mark for several specific reasons. Analytic Standard B requires the IC to maintain, quote, independence of political considerations. That's already giving away that some of the analysts were politically biased against Donald Trump. This is particularly important during times when the country is, as the Ombudsman wrote, in a hyper-partisan state. However, the Ombudsman found that, quote, China analysts were hesitant to assess Chinese actions as undue influence or interference. These analysts appeared reluctant to have their analysis on China brought forward because they tend to disagree with the administration's policies, saying, in effect, I don't want our intelligence used to support those policies. This behavior would constitute a violation of Analytic Standard B, Independence of Political Considerations, IRTPA, Section 1019. What he's saying is that there were analysts that would rather screw over the country than let Donald Trump benefit. That's all that says right there, ladies and gentlemen. Furthermore, alternative viewpoints on China's election influence efforts have not been appropriately tolerated, much less encouraged. In fact, the Ombudsman found that there were strong efforts to suppress analysis of alternatives in the August National Intelligence Council Assessment on Foreign Election Influence and associated IC products, which is in violation of Tradecraft Standard 4 and IRTPA Section 1017. National Intelligence Council officials reported that Central Intelligence Agency CIA officials rejected NIC coordination comments and tried to downplay alternative analysis in their own production during the drafting of the NICA. Listen, the NICA. The NICA, N-I-C-A. Folks, understand something. This so far is riddled. All I'm hearing from Ratcliffe is the CIA wasn't cooperating. The CIA was screwing us over. Folks, we know how bad the CIA can be in this country. We know the bad, dastardly, dark, downright illegal operations they've been involved in. And we know it's safe to say that the CIA may have played a role in Kennedy. And now coming forward, I'll say it right now, I'll be the first to put it on the table. The CIA may have been involved in Kennedy, and the CIA may have been involved in what's happened to Trump, ladies and gentlemen, because now we're going into an impeachment. And I hate to say this, but regardless of what anybody tells you, it could happen. I hope it doesn't, but it could happen. It could go through all the way, and they could convict him. And if that happens, we need to stay calm, we need to stay peaceful, and we need to find creative ways, again, to win hearts and minds. All right? Hearts and minds. We don't have the power to do things physically. We don't, and it's not the right way to do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot stoop to the left's level of being violent in the streets, because the fruit that we reap from that harvest, I promise you, will be rotten. So do not, I repeat, do not partake in that. And don't go and participate in any of this crap that's happening on the 20th, please. All right. There's a bunch of things out there saying that far left extremist groups, terrorist groups, and other groups are planning on violence on those days. You don't want to be mixed up with that. All it's going to do is give the left ammunition to fire back at 80 million Americans that did absolutely nothing but love their country and want freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and the American dream for their children. Those are the people who are going to be persecuted on the backs of the 6th, regardless of who started it. The scapegoat's been chosen. So Arnold, if you want to know who had a Kristallnacht happen to them? Kristallnacht's been happening to 80 million Americans in this country for the last year plus. So shut the F up. Sorry if there's children in the room. I caught myself at the last minute and just said the letter F. Please forgive me. It pisses me off that these millionaire leftists, that Mr. Bodybuilding there. Nothing against bodybuilding. Actually, you want to know who my favorite bodybuilder is? Shout out Mr. John Defendis. God bless. Bodybuilding Hall of Famer John Defendis. I hope maybe he hears this one day and reaches out to me. Folks, I hate to say this, but Arnold Schwarzenegger is full of crap. He doesn't know what he's talking about. All these people are just trying to capitalize. They're just capitalizing on what's happening. But going about this emotion, going about this full Captain Kirk with no Spock, it's a very, very dumb idea in this situation, ladies and gentlemen. So everybody needs to calm the hell out. Everybody be cool. Everybody be cool, as they say in Pulp Fiction. Well, something close to that in Pulp Fiction. I don't think I can say the rest of that. Everybody be cool, honey bunny. Anyway, listen, folks. We have an opportunity to grow an entirely new economy, an entirely new side of the internet, an entirely free space amongst each other. Let's focus on commerce. Let's focus on putting our individual differences aside on the right and organizing between each other in our local communities. That's what's important right now. Because if the crap hits the fan and they attack us, we need to be able to feed our families and take care of each other. So let's start networking, folks. Not for violence, but for safety. Plain and simple. All right? For safety. So all I'm recommending is to find local businesses, find people that don't agree with what's happening, and stand up the right way. Do it the right way. All right? Trust me. We have strength in numbers, and not the type of strength that the left puts forward by being violent. We have righteous and moral strength. And that light, that shining light, that beacon, that's the light that's going to save the world, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep going. Additionally, the ombudsman found that CIA management took actions pressuring analysts to withdraw their support from the alternative viewpoint on China in an attempt to suppress it. This was seen by national intelligence officers as politicization. Politicization. There we go. And I agree. For example, this ICA gives the false impression that the NIO Cyber is the only analyst who holds the minority view on China. He is not. A fact that the ombudsman found during his research and interviews with stakeholders, placing the NIO Cyber on a metaphorical island by attaching his name alone to the minority view, is a testament to both his courage and to the effectiveness of the institutional pressures that have been brought to bear on others who agree with him. There's one guy that's telling the truth, and everybody that agrees with him has been beat down. They've been punished. Beat down to Chinatown, ladies and gentlemen. No pun intended. Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act, IRTPA, Analytic Standard Delta, requires that coordinated analytic products be based on all available sources of intelligence. However, because of highly compartmented nature of some of the relevant intelligence, some analysts' judgments reflected the majority view are not based on the full body of reporting. That means they only read the biased information. They only read small bits and pieces because of secrets, because things were compartmentalized, because one area cannot look at another. Therefore, the majority view falls short of IRTPA, an analytic standard. It's saying because people didn't look at everything, but because people didn't follow the standard that says based upon all available sources of intelligence, because they only looked at one side, how could they possibly be following the rules and make a fair and honest assessment? They can't. It will be biased no matter what. That's plain, simple mathematical law. Tradecraft Standard 1 requires the analytic community to be consistent in the definitions applied to certain terminology and to ensure that the definitions are properly explained. Having consumed election influence intelligent across various analytic communities, it is clear to me that different groups of analysts who focus on election threats from different countries are using different terminologies to communicate to the same malign actions. Do you see that? Different terminology to communicate the same malign actions. We talked about similar things in the beginning of this, specifically definitional use of the terms influence and interference are different between the China and Russian analytic communities. The analytic ombudsman found that, quote, terms were applied inconsistently across the analytic community given analytic differences in the way that Russia and China analysts examine their targets. China analysts appeared hesitant to assess Chinese actions as undue influence or interference because they're afraid of the Chinese Communist Party, ladies and gentlemen, a party so strong they can make a billionaire like Jack Ma disappear. Jack Ma has gone AWOL, ladies and gentlemen. He said something critical about the Chinese government, and poof, the communists made him go bye-bye. Folks, scary stuff. As a result, similar actions by Russia and China are assessed and communicated to policymakers differently, potentially leading to the false impression that Russia sought to influence the election, but China did not. This is inconsistent with Tradecraft Standard 1. What they're saying is all this China interference, it did happen. But all this Russia, it's coming because that's what was interpreted by not having all the information and not understanding, because you had blinders on, not getting because you didn't see all the information like the DNI did, like Ratcliffe does. Remember, he sees all the information, not just one area where the other might be confidential or secret or top secret to the other people, very compartmentalized. He sees all of it and understands how the language works. These people didn't. Therefore, they reported misinformation, some purposely, some not purposely, some out of fear, some out of anger towards Trump, some out of fear from the Chinese Communist Party. Again, they reported this incorrect information, and now we have Russia again. And now we're looking at an impeachment again. When we should be wrapping up 10 days of an audit of foreign interference and voter fraud throughout the states. But instead, like I said, a bunch of idiots had to screw it up for us and do this stupid crap on the Capitol. I'm all for peaceful protest, people. I think 1 million people in the streets surrounding the Capitol would have made a great statement. But violence is just not acceptable. We're not there. We're not at that part. The world isn't Mad Max yet, and we're trying everything in our power to make sure it doesn't ever get that way. And we're not going to do that by abandoning the righteous and moral high ground, folks. We're better than that. And we're going to beat them. We're going to win. We are going to prevail. It's just going to take a time. It's going to take a long time. And it's going to be a big battle of wills. But we will win the day in the culture and social struggle for this nation, folks. In the Ombudsman report, he accurately acknowledged my commitment to provide an independent avenue for analysts to pursue unbiased analysis. My approach here is not without precedent. In 1962, a national intelligence estimate stated that Soviet Union was unlikely to place missiles in Cuba. Then CIA Director John McCone forcefully disagreed with those analysts. He later ordered the U-2 reconnaissance flights that discovered that the missiles had in fact been deployed. This is a warning from Ratcliffe to everybody that's coming in saying that nobody listened. People cried wolf. And the DNI stepped up and said, I don't give a crap. I don't give a crap that your intelligence says that nothing's happening. I don't give a crap that you don't believe it. I believe it. And he sent those U-2 spy planes over, and he found out that missiles were in Cuba. You know where that goes. You know where that goes, ladies and gentlemen. That's Cold War stuff, folks. You should know that. In that same spirit, I'm adding my voice in support of the stated minority view, based on all available sources of intelligence with definitions consistently applied and reached independent of political considerations or undue pressure, that the People's Republic of China sought to influence the 2020 U.S. federal elections and raising the need for the intelligence community to address the underlying issues with China reporting outlined above. So I want you to know, now that you've seen this, now that you've heard this, now that you know about this, we're right. You were right. We are getting screwed, but you're right. Don't let them tell you we weren't right. The news is going to tell us we were lying. The news is going to upset you. It's going to piss you off. It's going to make you want to explode. Don't let them control you like that. Don't sink to their level. Use this as motivation. Let it inspire you. Let it fill your belly with fire, and double down on coming up with ways, starting businesses, starting new markets, new economies. All right? Starting organizations in your local cities and towns. Getting together with like-minded people, places, businesses, churches, forming communities. The left, they're all on the same page. Even if their views are radically different from each other, they're all on the same page. And they all are great at one thing: aligning themselves with communities and organizing within them. Why aren't we doing the same thing, ladies and gentlemen? It's time to focus on the community. It's time to focus on hearts and minds. And it's time to overwhelm the polls and vote out every single rhino that doesn't identify with our ideology. This is a republic for the people and by the people. All right? We are the people. The legislature's elected for us and the government works for us. And the way we fix it is by putting the right people in office. Whether you trust the system or not, it's the system we got. And if that means that we have to get quadruple the people to the polls because our campaign of hearts and mind was that damn good, then that's what we do. We break their algorithm again, and we win whether they're cheating or not. So no anger. Take a breath. Push it out of you. You don't always win, but that doesn't mean that we don't win in the end. All right, ladies and gentlemen? So do me a favor. Hang tight. Stay tough. Stay with me. This is far from over. We have years to go, ladies and gentlemen. They're not going to take our country from us because our will is stronger than that. And we will inject our own culture, our own social media, our own hearts and minds into the waking public. And we will push back on their racist ideology, folks. All right. So thank you so much for listening. This was episode 54 of the American Reveille Podcast. Like I said, all right, we're expanding. We're working hard. We are trying to beef up our infrastructure. We've got a new website coming. Let me take a look at some of my notes here. The new website's getting built. That's going to be coming out in the next couple weeks. You're really going to love what we're doing there. They're going to have all of our work plus headlines, plus different sections, different things like that, still for free. Don't worry about anything like that. It's just going to be a much better user experience. And it's going to become the main hub so that they can't get rid of us off of any of these platforms. We'll be kind of like Alex Jones with his own storage. That's what we're working towards with that. We talked about the different expansions we're going to be doing over the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, different things like that, turning into a network, bringing in investments. And speaking of investments, folks, if you could do us a favor, if you can spare it, please head to www.americanreveille.com. It looks like this right here. All right, that's our site. Go over to the Support Us tab, hit the Support Us tab, and if you could support us with some Bitcoin or a little bit of real coin, please do us that favor. We're trying very hard to push through this censorship right now. And with Parler being down, we lost 15,000 people that were seeing our stuff every single day. So we're doing everything we can through the newsletter. Speaking of newsletter, please sign up right here at www.americanreveille.com. It's this green button that says sign up. We have a great newsletter. It comes out every day. Looks like this. All right. I give you a little something on my mind, something we used to talk about on Parler. I give you the top stories I think are relevant for your day. And then we get you out of there and on the way. So we're not driving you crazy with a 20-page graphic designs project to look at, folks. But it's very important that you sign up and we open these different lines of communication. And it's very important, if you can, please, please, please give us a donation. Parler did come up. All right. Not the app itself, not the website itself, but they aren't 404 not found anymore. Now John has some hosting. It seems he has a message up here. Now seems like the right time to remind you all, both lovers and haters, why we started this platform. We believe privacy is paramount and free speech essential, especially on social media. Our aim has always been to provide a nonpartisan public square where individuals can enjoy and exercise their rights to both. We'll resolve any challenge before us and plan to welcome you all back soon. We will not let civil discourse perish. And we here at the American Reveille would like to wish John Matze good luck. We support you. We have your back, John Matze and Parler, currently in hiding because of leftists trying to break into him and his employees' homes and death threats coming in all the time. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Shame on you, Twitter. Shame on you, Google. Shame on you, Amazon. You are all monopolies, should be broken up, and you should have your fortunes flushed down the toilets because of all the illegal crimes you have committed. Folks, thank you again. I appreciate it so much. If you're listening on Apple, 5-star rating, give me the review, write it in, moves us up the rankings. I know we're pissy with Apple right now, but you got to do it because there's still patriots listening there and they need to hear the American Reveille and join the American Reveille movement. Our motto is empowerment. All right. It's enlightenment, folks. It's entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, you are not going to find what we do anywhere else. And people have to keep waking up. They have to hear about us. And that depends on you spreading the message, ladies and gentlemen. So like, subscribe, leave a comment, share, please. All right. I need you to do me that favor. Wherever you can online, share this. Whatever person you know, celebrity, investor, a friend, family member, church member, send them our work. Send them this show. Please, please, please forward them the newsletter. Send them to www.americanreveille.com. Send them to me. I'll tell them. James Lane at AmericanReveille.com. That's my personal direct email. James Lane at AmericanReveille, REVEILLE.com. All right. We have to find a way around the social media. And frankly, that's why. All right. That's a big reason why there wasn't a lot of videos this weekend, because my team and I were brainstorming how to get around social media being snuffed from under the noses of 80 million Americans. So, folks, thank you for bearing with us. I appreciate your patience. Thank you for listening. Sign up We're on Gab, American_Reveille, Cloud Hub, at the James Lane, trying to get wherever we can to hear the word. And remember, as always, the best place to find us, www.americanreveille.com. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you have a great Monday. Go kick the crap out of your week, and we're going to get through this together. God bless.